Hi there, my name is Stephanie and I am a registered dietitian, and I thought it would be time to make a video about how I became a registered dietitian, mainly the exam. So let's get started. So I have a few friends that are taking their exam this week and in the next coming weeks, and I know the feeling of being totally freaked out and feeling like you're not smart enough and there's no way you can take this daunting exam, and it's just scary. So I thought I would share kind of what I did to prepare for this exam. So first I started by using Inman, which can be really expensive, so maybe kind of search around, see if anyone has a copy you can borrow, or kind of split the cost of it, because I think it's almost $400, which is insane, but I feel like it's really worth it. I had the pages to look at, and I kind of went through the entire thing while listening to the audio, which I feel like really helped. And it's okay if you tune out, just like kind of realize if you're tuning out, because I think it's like 7 hours of listening to Inman, so it's kind of a lot. So just kind of pay attention if you're tuning out and you aren't retaining the information, then maybe take a study break, eat a snack, drink some water, and then come back to it. But I do feel like it was really helpful. So the next thing I did to study after I did Inman, I did Inman for probably like a week, like full-time studying, every day, just kind of like my job is to study. But after that, I kind of was casually studying, and I actually used an app on my phone. I think it's like it's like Pocket Prep, that's what it's called, but it says dietitian like on your phone. And I did pay for the upgraded version, and it's only like $25, but I feel like it was really worth it, because if I felt like I should have been studying but I wasn't, or I was like out and about, I could just pull out my phone and take like a quick 10 question practice exam, and I feel like it did help. I don't remember if any of the questions popped up on the exam, but it's just that kind of repetition and getting into that like dietitian mode and that mindset going into the exam. So when I was actually using Inman, I got this like old composition notebook, and as I was listening and going through her review, I took notes on things that you probably can't see that. I took notes on things that I wasn't so sure on or hadn't looked at in a while, or things. She does say note a lot, so I tried to take note of the things that she mentioned. So there's quite a few pages in here of Inman. And then she also has hundreds of practice exam questions, and I did not actually make it through all of them. I mean, if you have the time, go for it. I do think they were helpful, but I kind of just was going like 20 questions at a time and just kind of seeing what I got right and wrong and how I could learn from it, and kind of going from there. So one of the last things I did to study for the RD exam is Eat Right Prep, and that also can cost a lot of money if you subscribe to their service, but I was able to do like a 3-day free trial, and that's all I used, and I feel like that's all I needed. Eat Right Prep is really great. It has really great information. It tells you kind of why you got the answer right or wrong, and it's really helpful, but it definitely messed with my confidence, because I like couldn't pass the exams, and I'm like, I'm gonna fail, this is not going well. But I didn't fail, obviously. But that's the thing I would warn people with Eat Right Prep, is even if you're not doing great on those exams, that doesn't mean that you're destined for failure when you actually take the RD exam. I think there was kind of a lot of abbreviations for things I'd never heard of before and did not come up on my exam, so I don't know where those came from or why they put them on there, but I feel like it's kind of distracting, because I'm like, what? I don't even know what some of them were, but it's like, what does that even stand for? We didn't learn about that. So that's my caution with Eat Right Prep, is I used it. I would recommend using it, but don't let it like sink your enthusiasm and your confidence going into the exam. So of course I was trying to do research on how everyone else studied for the RD exam, and I did find Becca Bristow. She's a registered dietitian and she has a really cute YouTube channel, and she mentioned making worksheets. So these, I followed her advice. These are kind of just like cheat sheets. Like if you were able to have a binder next to you while you're taking the exam, like what would you write on those pages? So of course I got pretty colored paper and cute little like calligraphy pens from Michael's, just to kind of make it fun and colorful. And I made these little cheat sheets. So I'll kind of go through them. The first one, I don't know if you can see if it's too bright, I did the Krebs cycle. It's like drilled into our brains from chemistry and biology and all those hard science classes. I think that will come up. So it's really good to know the metabolism of energy, what happens when food comes into the body, and how it becomes energy. So study that. I also definitely would recommend going through the vitamins and minerals. Here I have multiple pages, kind of going through the RDA and, you know, fat soluble, water soluble, where they're found, and deficiencies. So this is kind of like, we learned this, so just kind of going through that. Diabetic exchange list. This was kind of tricky for me at first, but once you kind of get it down, it makes sense. But that was one of my worksheets. Medications, very important, especially if you're a clinical dietitian, and especially when studying for the exam. It's just like medication management, just like being familiar with the terms of the medications, what they're for, and then any like weird side effects or interactions. Definitely pay attention to those. Continuing on with our cheat sheets, I saw it pop up a lot. So if you see things kind of that keep coming up on all of your kind of practice mediums like Inman, Eat Right Prep, and the app, I noticed that food labeling came up a lot. So I made a cheat sheet for that. That is something that's helpful to know just in the real world, but also as a dietitian when you're educating people about what to buy at the grocery store or food labels, what to look for. There are specific criteria. For example, like, what does low fat mean? It's like, well, I don't know, but you should know. Low fat would be less than 3 grams of fat per serving. So it's like, okay, these are things that I have to like memorize, is what these cheat sheets are really helpful for. I also wrote down the daily reference values, so you want to know like how much people should be getting. And then the food label is something that you should study. Hint, hint. I did make a sheet for random abbreviations, but I don't think I needed it. This is mainly from Eat Right Prep. It's like the FADE and ethnic model. I mean, maybe it pops up on some exams, but it wasn't relevant to me. So dietitians not only work in hospitals and clinical settings and patient care, they can also be managers in food service. And this kept coming up. This is kind of a big part of being a dietitian, just in case you were to be a manager, or maybe that's the career you want to choose. But there's lots of these management principles, which are really fun. And that was one of my least favorite classes, I would say, in my undergrad. But I made a whole cheat sheet on all these management principles. So just like different roles, Mintzberg's management roles, leadership styles, like these come up. I mean, it's good information to know. So definitely look at those. There's even a backside to this page. Theories of motivation, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, all those sorts of things tend to pop up a lot. So yeah. Definitely foodborne illness. I made a whole cheat sheet for that, kind of separating it. I think I based this off Gene Inman and then kind of used my textbooks for my undergrad, like Krauss. But there's like food intoxication and foodborne infection, kind of knowing the difference, knowing like the onset time, where they're found, like what happens, is there a fever, no fever, like there's lots of specifics with foodborne illness, but this is definitely a good one to make a cheat sheet for. I also made a cheat sheet for food service equations. So I don't really like math, especially if I have to memorize something, but that's kind of a lot of what we do in nutrition is math. So it's kind of funny that I don't like math, but I'm a dietitian, so you can do it. This is helpful for the exam and for studying. I did things like percent yield, so you might see food service questions or food related questions with percent yield, shrinkage, the management thing, again, I like budgeting, meals per labor hour, those sort of things. So pay attention to those. Also scoop sizes is on the back of here. That probably will come up. So definitely keep that in mind. Let's see. Research. There's one for research. So this is kind of a big part of the evidence-based aspect of being a dietitian, is being able to interpret data and research articles and coming up with your best evidence-based recommendation. So they do want you to be able to differentiate between different types of studies and why they're useful. So knowing like what a p-value is, knowing different types of studies, what they're used for, like descriptive studies, analytical, case-controlled, cross-sectional, those sort of things. Study that. So I think we're getting towards the end of my cheat sheets, but definitely knowing biochemical analysis, like labs, I made a cheat sheet for that. So like albumin comes up all the time. So know like the range, the ideal range, the function, what does it mean when it's raised or lowered or increased, decreased, and you might need to know half-life sort of thing, but just kind of like review all these things. It's helpful because you do need to know this being a dietitian. And lastly, I don't remember if this came up, but it could, government programs. So these acronyms, kind of knowing what they stand for. Like I did 13 weeks in school food service, so those programs were really familiar to me, and understanding what's required of them kind of came easily to me from my internship. But they might ask you, there's like weird specifics. So like for the National School Lunch Program, the lunch must provide a third of your daily intake for protein, vitamin A, C, and calcium. But for the school breakfast program, it's 1/4 of the daily recommended values for protein, calcium, iron, vitamin A, and vitamin C. So it's like getting those things straight. These are really helpful for just like organizing your thoughts and making sure that you have all the information that you could need for the exam. And those are the main ones I went through. So I would highly recommend doing that. It really helps me to memorize these things and get everything straight before going into the exam. So I hope this video was helpful. I know I didn't believe anyone when they told me that I would pass and I would get through it and everything would be okay, because it is scary. But you can do it, and once you're on the other side, it is such a great feeling when you pass that exam. So good luck.